The first bell had just rung, and the school hallways buzzed with the usual morning chatter. Lockers slammed shut, sneakers squeaked across the polished floor, and groups of friends moved together, laughing and talking about homework, sports, and weekend plans. Among the noise, Maya walked quietly with her backpack slung over her shoulder. She didn't crave attention, and most days she blended into the background. Maya was calm, her steps measured, her eyes focused forward. She wasn't the type to pick fights or to be the center of gossip. But even when she tried to stay invisible, some people couldn't resist making her a target. At the end of the hallway, leaning against the lockers with a smirk plastered on, his face stood Ethan. Everyone in school knew Ethan, the loudmouth, the boy who thought the world revolved around him. He had a group of followers who laughed at his cruel jokes, no matter how harsh or unnecessary they were. He wasn't the biggest kid in school, but what he lacked in size, he made up for in arrogance. He enjoyed making others feel small because it made him feel big. This morning, Maya happened to walk straight into his path. "Hey," Ethan called out, his voice cutting through the hallway noise. His friends immediately quieted, sensing what was about to happen. Maya didn't answer. She kept walking, her face calm, eyes forward. She had learned long ago that ignoring was sometimes the strongest response. But Ethan wasn't the type to be ignored. He stepped forward, blocking her path. "What's the rush? Can't even say good morning?" A few students slowed down, watching. These moments always pulled attention like magnets. People loved drama, even when it was cruel. Whispers spread as kids formed a loose circle around them. Maya looked up finally, her dark eyes meeting his. "Good morning," she said, her voice even and steady. Ethan smirked, as if her calmness were an insult. He placed one hand against the locker beside her and leaned in, making the space feel smaller. "You think you're too good to talk to? Me, huh? Always walking around like you're better than everyone." The students nearby exchanged glances. Some looked uncomfortable, others curious. A few of Ethan's friends laughed, egging him on. Maya didn't flinch. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her face stayed calm. "I never said that," she replied simply. Her composure annoyed him. Bullies thrived on fear, on watching people squirm. But Maya wasn't giving him that satisfaction. Ethan's smirk faded slightly. He straightened up, then suddenly shoved her shoulder, not enough to knock her down, but enough to make a statement. The hallway gasped in unison. Maya stumbled a step back but quickly regained her balance. She stood tall again, adjusting her backpack strap. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She didn't give him a single sign of weakness. For a moment, Ethan hesitated. Something about her silence unsettled him. He was used to kids shouting back, crying, or running off. Maya was different. Her eyes locked onto his, unwavering, almost daring him to push further. "Wrong move, kid," she said quietly. The words weren't loud, but they carried weight, heavy, sharp. They echoed in the silence that had fallen over the hallway. The group of onlookers froze. No one had ever spoken to Ethan like that, not with fear, not with anger, but with calm certainty. It was as if Maya knew something the rest of them didn't. Something about her presence made Ethan suddenly feel smaller, like he was standing on shaky ground. He forced a laugh to cover his unease. "What are you talking about? You don't scare me." Maya tilted her head slightly. Her calmness was almost eerie. She didn't need to shout to make herself heard. Her stillness was louder than his noise. One of Ethan's friends leaned closer to him and whispered, "Dude, maybe leave her alone." But Ethan brushed it off, unwilling to back down in front of an audience. His pride was on the line, and pride was the only thing he had. "You think you can talk back to me?" he snapped, pointing a finger at her. "You don't know who you're messing with." Maya's lips curved into the faintest smile. She took a step forward, not aggressive, but steady, unshaken. Her voice stayed calm as she replied, "No, Ethan, you don't know who you're messing with." The crowd murmured in confusion. Ethan blinked, caught off guard by her confidence. For the first time, he felt like the hallway wasn't his stage anymore. The control was slipping from his hands, and Maya hadn't even raised her voice. Behind the silence of her words, there was something deeper, a quiet strength, a hidden story. No one else knew it, but Maya wasn't just any girl. She had grown up in a world far harsher than these school hallways. Her father's name alone could silence entire rooms. A man who once ruled the city's underworld, who had walked away from that life to give his daughter a chance at something better. But reputations never die easily, and those who truly knew her father's past never forgot. Maya never bragged about it. She never threatened or threw his name around. She didn't have to. His lessons lived inside her. Strength without cruelty, confidence without arrogance, and calmness that unsettled anyone who tried to shake her. The hallway remained frozen in suspense. Ethan stood there, unsure what to do, while Maya turned her back and began to walk away. Each step she took was steady, unhurried, powerful. She didn't need to win the crowd. She didn't need to fight back. By refusing to bend, she had already won. And though the students didn't yet know the truth about who her father was, they could sense one thing very clearly. Maya was not someone to mess with. Ethan's laughter died in his throat as he watched her walk. His friends shifted uncomfortably, no longer amused. And for the first time in his reign as the school's bully, Ethan felt the ground beneath him crumble. The whispers began again, but this time they weren't about him. They were about her. The whispers didn't slow down after the hallway moment. They grew like a wave. By second period, people who had never noticed Maya were saying her name like it was a riddle. Some asked who she really was, others claimed they knew. None of that changed how she walked to class, steady, quiet, focused. She kept her notebook neat, answered when called, and smiled when her teachers praised her work. Inside, she felt a small tremble of adrenaline from the morning, but she breathed through it the way her dad had taught her. In slowly, out slowly, thoughts clear, eyes open. At lunch, she sat by the window with her friend Sophia. The cafeteria was busy and loud, full of trays and noise and footsteps. Maya unwrapped her sandwich carefully like she had all the time in the world. "People are staring," Sophia said, keeping her voice low. "I can feel it," Maya replied, taking a sip of water. "It'll pass." "You sure?" Ethan looked different today, not his usual loud self. Maya looked at the doors for a brief second and then back at Sophia. "He's deciding what to do next. Pride argues one way, instinct argues the other." Sophia rested her chin on her hand. "How can you be so calm right now?" "Because panic writes bad plans," Maya said. "Calm writes good ones." Sophia laughed under her breath. "You always sound like you swallowed a wisdom book." "Just my dad," Maya said gently. "He taught me to keep my voice even when the room is loud." It wasn't only her father's advice that kept her steady. It was his presence in her life. How he rose early to make breakfast even when he went to bed late. How he checked her homework. How he looked at her like she was the reason he walked away from old shadows. He had made mistakes, large ones, but he faced them. He never described details he didn't need to. The city carried the stories for him. What he gave her were lessons. Never start trouble, never hide from it, and never let someone decide your place. After lunch, chemistry class dragged a little. Maya kept her eyes on the lab steps, ticking off the instructions. Across the room, she spotted Ethan. He wasn't sneering or joking. He seemed restless, tapping a pencil and staring at nothing. His friends looked uneasy too, as if they weren't sure whether to laugh or stay quiet. When the bell rang, he didn't rush to the door. He waited until the room cleared and then took the long way out. Shoulders tight, eyes low. On her way to the library, Maya heard two juniors whispering near the lockers. "That girl? Her dad is Marcus," one of them said. "No way. My uncle knows. Says people used to drop their voice when they said his name. And he just lives normal. Now, trying to," the first one said. "But I wouldn't mess with his kid." Maya kept walking, not speeding up, not slowing down. There was always a line between what people thought they knew and what was true. Her father had changed. He kept his world small and clean now. He paid taxes, ran a simple logistics business, answered emails, drove a reliable car, and came home. Before dinner most nights. But history does not evaporate. It settles like dust. Even when you clean, some fine layer remains. After school, Maya took the bus home. She liked the bus, the quiet rhythm of the ride, the simple routine. She watched the streets pass. A bakery that always smelled like sugar, a corner store with bright fruit pyramids, a mural of a smiling child with stars in their hair. When she stepped off, the air felt warmer than the morning. She walked the last block to her building, keys ready, thoughts light. Her father was already in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, cutting tomatoes and onions for dinner. Music played softly from the speaker, old soul songs that made the room feel like sunlight. "How was your day?" he asked, not looking up from the cutting board. "Busy," she said, setting her backpack by the table. "We had a lab in chemistry. My group didn't spill anything. That feels like a win." He smiled. "No fires, no broken glass. We'll take that." She poured 2 glasses of water, put one beside him, and leaned on the counter. For a moment she stayed quiet, watching his hands move. Careful, exact, never wasting motion. He had hands that knew work and hands that could hold a kitchen knife, like a pencil. People made up legends about those hands, she knew. She also knew those hands held her when she cried as a child, buttoned her coat in winter, and fixed her loose backpack strap last month with neat stitching. "There was something else," she said. He paused, knife above the board, then set it down. He always sensed the shift in her voice. "I'm listening. A boy at school tried to push me," she said, choosing her words. "He likes to show off in front of people. I told him he made the wrong move. I walked away. He didn't follow." Her father's eyes grew still. Not hard. Still. "Did he hurt you?" "No," she said. "Only tried to jolt me. He wanted a reaction. I didn't give him one." He studied her face. "And how do you feel?" "Steady," she said. "Better after telling you." He nodded slowly. "You did right. No noise, no mess. You kept your line. I'm proud of you." "Thank you," she said, and meant it. He picked up the knife again, then set it down once more. "There is one thing you need to hear again," he added. "My past does not belong to you. You never need to use my name to stand up for yourself. You are enough without it." "I know," she said softly. "I don't want to use it. I don't want to be a warning. I just want to be me." "That's exactly who you are," he said, the corner of his mouth lifting. "And you is not small." They cooked together, moving around each other like they'd practiced for years because they had. He sautéed, she stirred. He added salt. She tasted and nodded. The kitchen filled with warm smells and the kind of quiet that feels safe. Later that night, Maya studied at the table while her father answered emails nearby. Every now and then he looked up, as if to check the weather of her mood. Each time she gave him a small okay smile. She wasn't pretending. She was okay. Not because nothing had happened, but because she had not let it write her story. Across town, Ethan lay awake, the blue light of his phone washing over his ceiling. He scrolled past messages he didn't want to read. A few kids sent memes about the hallway moment. One said, "Bro, she cooked you without a word." He tossed the phone aside and stared into the dark. For the first time, he wondered what would happen if he just stopped. Stopped barking, stopped testing people to see who would break. But another part of him, the loud part built from years of attention, pushed back. If he didn't do something, the halls would remember him as the boy who backed down. His chest felt tight. Pride and fear don't share space well. But they were both sitting on him now. The next day in school, he avoided Maya on purpose. He told himself it was strategic. In truth, it was relief. He saw her by the water fountain talking to a teacher, calm as ever. Her posture said, "I know who I am." He wondered for a flashing second what it felt like to move through a hallway and not need anything from it. By mid-morning, rumors had grown, new branches. Some said Maya's father worked with the mayor. Some said he used to scare the mayor. Others said he ran charities quietly, Kids are good at building stories when they don't have facts. What stuck wasn't any single claim. It was the atmosphere. People gave Maya more space, but not out of fear of her, out of respect for the way she carried herself. In the library, Sophia pushed a chair out for Maya. "I heard something wild." "I bet you did," Maya said with a little smile. "Someone said your family owns half the city." "We own a rice cooker and a very old toaster," Maya said, amused. "And books. We own lots of books." "So, not half the city. Not even half the block." They laughed, and the laughter broke a tension that had followed them all morning. Maya opened her notebook and drew a small box in the top corner, a habit she had when she needed to sort her thoughts. In the box she wrote, "Keep your line." Then, she underlined it once. After school she stayed for tutoring and then walked home in the clean afternoon light. A neighbor on the third floor asked about her classes. The super waved from the doorway. Normal sounds, normal faces. She liked that the world could be ordinary after a strange day. That evening her father suggested a walk. They strolled to the park where kids rode bikes and a woman sold fruit from a cart. Marcus bought 2 cups of sliced mango and handed one to Maya. They sat on a bench and watched the sky turn soft. "I was thinking about what you said yesterday," he told her. "About being normal." She looked at him, waiting. "I don't know if I will ever be normal to other people," he said. "But I can be good. And I can be your father in a way that is simple and honest. That's what I choose now. That's what I feel," she said. He nodded, then added, "If that boy pushes again, you tell a teacher, you tell me. We don't hide trouble, we handle it the right way." "I will," she promised, "but I don't think he will push again." "Why not?" "Because I didn't give him what he wanted," she said, "and because he looked at me and saw I wasn't scared. It's hard to chase someone who doesn't run." They finished the mango and walked home under streetlights that hummed quietly. Maya slept well that night. Her dreams were simple. Pages, turning, water moving, the soft hum of the bus. In the morning, she tied her hair back, packed her bag, and left for school with the same steady steps. At the entrance, she held the door for a freshman with too many books. He smiled, surprised, and said thanks. It felt good to start a day with something small and kind. First period passed without a glance from Ethan. Second period, too. By third, she noticed something new. He had stopped picking at other kids. No jokes that weren't really jokes. No quick jabs that hurt but were easy to deny. He sat quieter, eyes on the desk. Maybe he was planning. Maybe he was thinking. Either way, the halls felt different. At lunch, Sophia nudged her. "You might have changed the weather, you know." "What do you mean?" "Ethan wasn't messing with Liam today or Jenna. He was just quiet. Like actually quiet." Maya thought about that as she chewed. You don't fix a person by beating them. You don't fix a school by shouting. Sometimes all you can do is be a straight line in a crooked room and let others notice. After the last bell, she walked to the buses and felt the week settle behind her like a door closing gently. She didn't feel bigger than anyone. She didn't feel smaller. She felt clear. Whatever came next, she would meet it with the same steady posture. Not because her father had a name people remembered, but because she had a name she liked saying to herself. On the ride home, she looked out the window and let the city slide by. The bakery, the fruit stands, the mural. She smiled at the stars in the painted hair. The artist had once told her they drew that because every kid should see a little sky, even when the buildings felt tall. She believed that. Some days the buildings were people. Some days they were fear. Some days they were rumors. But there was always a piece of sky if you kept your head up. She pressed her forehead lightly to the glass and closed her eyes for a second. The bus turned a corner, and the sun spilled across her like a warm hand. She breathed in slowly, breathed out slowly, and let the day be exactly what it was. A day she had met with calm and left with her line unbroken. The school felt different after that week. Not in a way you could measure with numbers or charts, but in the quiet undercurrent that moved through the halls. Students glanced more often at Maya when she passed, though they tried not to make it obvious. Some of them smiled a little, respectful, without saying it out loud. Others simply looked away, not because they disliked her, but because they didn't know how to approach her anymore. The strange part was that Maya never did anything dramatic. She wasn't giving speeches in class, she wasn't correcting teachers, she wasn't even speaking more than usual. She just kept her rhythm: sit, learn, walk, breathe. And somehow, that was what made her stand out. She didn't have to prove herself. She simply was. Ethan, on the other hand, carried a weight heavier each day. He was used to being in control of the hallways. People used to laugh at his jokes, even when they weren't funny. They used to follow him, even when he was wrong. He was used to being the center of attention, and now that attention was drifting. When people looked at him, it wasn't admiration anymore. It was curiosity, or worse, pity. He tried to shake it off, but his pride and his fear wrestled inside him like two wild dogs. He wanted to prove he was still the one in charge, yet every time he saw Maya, that calm stare of hers replayed in his mind. He hated that memory. He hated how small it made him feel. By the end of the week, the whispers about Maya's father had grown louder. Some kids said he was a businessman. Others said he used to run the streets, and still others swore they saw him once in a suit that looked sharper than anything a politician could wear. No one knew for sure, but the mystery only made the story grow. At lunch one day, two older students sat at a table near Ethan. They didn't notice he was listening. "You know who she is, right? That's Marcus's daughter." "Marcus? The Marcus?" "Yeah. My uncle told me stories. Back in the day, if Marcus walked into a room, even the toughest guys shut up. He didn't need to shout. He just looked at you and you knew." Ethan gripped his sandwich tighter until the bread collapsed in his hand. He didn't want to believe it, but the more he heard, the more it made sense. That calm, that quiet strength, Maya had inherited it. She didn't need to threaten anyone, because her presence did the work. That afternoon, Ethan caught sight of Maya by her locker. She was organizing her books neatly, as she always did. Sophia stood nearby, chatting softly. Ethan's friends urged him to say something, to take his spot back. But for once, Ethan stayed still. His throat tightened as he realized the truth. He didn't know what to say that wouldn't make him look weaker. Maya shut her locker and turned, her eyes passing over him for a second. She didn't stop, didn't pause, didn't even acknowledge his presence. That, more than anything, broke him. She didn't see him as a threat. She didn't see him at all. At home, Maya kept her balance the way she always did. Her father asked her each evening about her classes, her teachers, her friends. Sometimes he cooked, sometimes she cooked. They shared meals at the small wooden table, the one that had scratches from years of use but still felt sturdy. One evening, Marcus asked casually, "How are things at school now?" Maya shrugged lightly. "Quieter. People talk, but not to me. Just about me." "Does it bother you?" he asked, his eyes steady. "Not really," she said. "They'll move on when they get bored. It's just noise." Marcus leaned back, his chair creaking softly. "Noise can be dangerous if you let it fill your head. But if you keep your head clear, noise is nothing but air." Maya smiled faintly. "That's how I treat it. Like air." Marcus studied her a moment longer, then nodded. "Good. Just remember, you don't carry my past. You carry your own future. If people whisper about me, let them. You don't owe them anything." "I know," Maya said softly. "But sometimes I wonder if people will ever see me just as me." Marcus reached across the table and covered her hand with his. His hand was large, rough, but warm. "They will. It takes time. But if you keep living with honesty, people will have no choice but to see you." Maya nodded, her eyes steady. She believed him, because he never promised things he couldn't deliver. Meanwhile, Ethan's nights grew restless. He scrolled through social media, replaying the hallway scene in his head, replaying Maya's words. Every comment about her strength dug into him. Every laugh he overheard in the halls felt aimed at him. He wanted to reclaim control, but deep inside a thought gnawed at him. Maybe he never had real control. Maybe it had always been fear, and fear wasn't respect. One night, he sat at the dinner table with his parents. His mother asked about school and he mumbled a short answer. His father barely looked up from his phone. No one noticed the storm inside him. When he went upstairs, he stared into the mirror. His reflection looked back with eyes that were angrier than he felt. He punched the sink once, not hard enough to break it, but enough to feel the sting. Then he whispered to himself, "Who am I if no one fears me?" He didn't have an answer. The following week, something unexpected happened. During gym class, a freshman tripped and dropped his books while walking past a group of older kids. Normally, Ethan would have used that as an opportunity to joke, to show off. But instead, before he even thought about it, he bent down and picked up the books. The freshman blinked at him, confused. "Thanks." Ethan just nodded, handing them back without a word. His friends stared at him like he had grown a second head. "Dude, what was that?" Ethan shrugged, embarrassed. "Nothing, just helping." It was small, but it was something. He didn't admit it out loud, but Maya's calm had gotten under his skin. She had shown him another way to hold yourself. It was like a crack in the wall he had built around himself, and light was starting to slip through. Maya noticed the change too. A week later, she saw Ethan in the cafeteria sitting quieter, not surrounded by his usual crowd. He looked almost human, in a way she hadn't seen before. She didn't pity him, but she did recognize the struggle in his eyes. She remembered something her father once said. "Even the loudest dog is just barking because it's scared inside." Maybe Ethan was finally realizing his own fear. Sophia noticed it too. "Do you think he's planning something?" she whispered. "No," Maya said, shaking her head. "I think he's figuring something out." "What?" "Who he wants to be," Maya replied. That evening, while she sat with her father again at the kitchen table, she told him about the shift she had noticed. Marcus listened carefully, his eyes narrowing slightly, then softening. "People can change," he said. "Even the worst ones. But change is not easy. Sometimes it takes one strong mirror to show them who they really are." "Do you think I was that mirror?" Maya asked. Marcus smiled faintly. "I think you already know the answer." Maya lowered her gaze, thoughtful. She didn't feel like a hero, or even a leader. She had just stood her ground. But maybe, just maybe that was enough to shake someone else awake. The next morning, the hallways felt lighter. Not completely different. Kids were still kids. Laughter was still loud. Lockers still slammed. But there was less tension. Maya walked her steady steps, and Ethan, standing at his locker, glanced at her as she passed. For the first time, his eyes didn't hold anger. They held something closer to respect. He didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. Maya didn't smile, but she gave him a small nod. It was enough. The whispers about her father didn't stop, but they mattered less now. What mattered was the quiet change happening right there in the hallways, an invisible shift no one could put into words yet. And though Maya never sought it, she had become a center of gravity. Not because of her father's past, but because of her own quiet strength. And Ethan, for the first time in his life, began to wonder what it would feel like to live without needing to be feared. The weather changed the next week, a soft rain that made the street smell clean in the morning and left the school steps damp and shining. Students shook water from their jackets and hurried inside, hair a little messy, laughter a little louder. The building felt alive in a gentler way than before. Maya noticed it as she pushed open the front door with her shoulder, her backpack snug and light. She liked rainy days. They made people slow down. They made noise softer. They reminded her to breathe. She walked through the hall with her usual steady rhythm, nodding to the front desk clerk, smiling at the custodian who always swept near the staircase. She liked knowing names even when others didn't bother. Names were anchors, they held small worlds together. When she reached her locker, she wiped a bead of water from her cheek with the back of her hand and turned the dial. the metal clicked open. She set her books in a clean stack, her mind already rehearsing the day, quiz in civics, lab notes to finalize, a short reflection to write in English class. And after school, she planned to stop by the neighborhood bookstore to return a borrowed paperback. It was the kind of day that might look plain from the outside but felt good on the inside, steady, complete. She closed her locker and turned. Ethan stood 10 feet away, alone. He wasn't posturing or smirking. He was just standing, hands at his sides, like someone who had walked to a cliff and was thinking about what the view meant. When he noticed she had seen him, he straightened. For a second, old habits flared in his eyes, the instinct to puff up and fill space. Then something passed through his face, like wind moving a curtain, and the instinct faded. He took 2 steps forward. "Can I talk to you?" he asked, voice low. Maya measured her breath. She didn't feel fear, only alertness, the way a violinist is alert to the first note. Around them, the hallway went on with its life. Lockers, chatter, footsteps. No one seemed to be paying attention, but she knew attention could turn on a dime. She kept her voice even. "Okay, here is fine." He glanced down the hall as if to check for an audience and then faced her again. I've been a jerk," he said. The words came out stiff, unused, like a door that hadn't been opened in years. "To you, to a lot of people." Maya waited. "Apologies are bridges," her father had told her once. "Let the other person build theirs. You don't lay your bricks on their side." "I thought I had to be the loudest," he continued. "I thought that made me strong. But it makes you real small inside when you—" He stopped, his jaw tightening as if his pride tried to pull the words back. He pushed through. "When you didn't react, I couldn't see myself anymore. I saw what I was doing and I didn't like it." Maya nodded once. "Thank you for saying that." He blinked, surprised by the simplicity of her answer, then rushed to fill the air. "I'm not asking you to be my friend. I don't want to be that person. I don't know how not to be that person yet. But I'm trying." "Do you plan to try?" Maya asked. It was not a challenge. It was a real question. He shifted his weight. "I started helping in gym, picking up equipment, not because anyone asked me to, but because it felt right to do something nobody could clap for. It felt different. And yesterday I told my friends to cut it out with Liam. They laughed at me at first. Then they stopped when I didn't laugh, with them." "That sounds like a good start," Maya said. She meant it. Starting small mattered. Small things repeated become big habits. Ethan took a breath. "People keep talking about your dad." Maya held his gaze steady. "People talk about what they don't know." "I guess I'm one of those people," he said. He rubbed his palms against his jeans, nervous. "Look, I don't want to drag you into some rumor mess. I want to say I'm done with the whole act, with needing people to be scared. You don't need my permission," Maya said softly. "No," he said. A small smile, almost crooked, touched his mouth. "But I needed your example." A bell rang then, the long, smooth note that sent students moving toward first period. Maya shifted her bag onto her shoulder. "I hope you keep your line," she said. He frowned. "My line?" "It's what my dad says," Maya explained. "It means your values, your path, the way you choose to stand. People will try to pull you off it, don't let them." He nodded, and the nod wasn't performative. It was worker solid, something you would see between 2 people who respected tools and time. "I'll try." They parted without ceremony. No handshake, no dramatic music. Just 2 people returning to a day that would test them in small ways. Sometimes that was enough. The morning flowed in simple currents. Roll call, worksheets, the hum of the projector, the scrape of chairs. In civics, the teacher asked the class to write about influence, who had shaped them and how. Pens moved across paper. Maya thought for a moment and then wrote about 3 people. Her grandmother, who made quilts from old shirts and called it saving history with needles. The crossing guard on Maple, who knew every child's name and remembered the birthdays. And her father, who taught her that silence can be strong when it is chosen and dangerous when it is forced. She didn't mention his old life. She didn't need to. She wrote about how he showed up, how he kept showing up. During lunch, the cafeteria felt less sharp around the edges. Ethan sat with fewer people, and the air near his table was quieter, almost like a room learning a new arrangement. He didn't look over at Maya or try to catch her attention. He was not performing for her. That, she decided, was another small good sign. Sophia set down her tray and leaned in. "Did he talk to you?" "Yes." "And?" "He apologized," Maya said, taking a bite of her apple. "He says he's trying to be different." Sophia's eyes widened. "For real?" "For real." Sophia let out a long breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "You break bullies like a math problem, you know that? With steps and calm and no drama." "I didn't break him," Maya said. "He saw himself. The mirror just happened to be me." Sophia pointed her fork like a little gavel. "Poetic. Put that in your English journal." After school, Maya went to the bookstore as planned. The bell above the door chimed, and the owner, Mrs. Patel, smiled from behind the counter. "My reliable reader," she said. "You return books cleaner than when you borrow them." Maya placed the paperback gently on the desk. It was good. The part about the lighthouse made me cry a little. Mrs. Patel put a hand over her heart. Lighthouses are allowed to make strong people cry. They work the night shift. She slid another book across the counter. A new one came in. It's quiet on the surface, deep in the middle. Like tea. Maya laughed softly. "I'll take it." On the walk home, she tucked the book into her bag and watched the puddles mirror the sky. She was not naive. She knew changes could wobble, that people could slip back into old grooves. But when she thought of Ethan's face that morning, she felt something like cautious hope. Pride had loosened its grip on him. Fear had let in a thin line of air. Lines of air can become doors. At dinner, she told her father about the conversation. He listened without interrupting, then took a long sip of water. "Humility," he said, setting the glass down, "is not soft. It's heavy. People carry it only after they drop something heavier like pride." "He looked tired," Maya said. "But not the kind that makes you mean. The kind that makes you honest." Marcus tapped the table lightly with his knuckles, thinking. "There is a thing most people don't know about men like I used to be," he said at last. "We're not addicted to power. We're addicted to attention. It's a hunger that never ends. When someone learns to feed on respect instead, the hunger finally rests." Maya turned that over in her mind. "So I should just let it be?" "Let it be, but stay awake," he said. "If he slides, you protect yourself the right way. Teachers, counselors, me. There is no prize for handling everything alone." "I know," she said. "I won't be reckless." He reached across the table and squeezed her hand once. "You're not built for reckless. You're built for steady." The next day, the principal announced something new over the intercom. A peer mediation program. Students could sign up to learn conflict skills, how to listen, how to speak without attacking, how to set boundaries. A counselor named Mr. Alvarez would run it after school twice a week. Maya wrote the details on a sticky note and put it inside her planner, not because she had a problem to fix, because she liked learning how to make rooms calmer. That afternoon, she went to the first session. A handful of students showed up, a girl who argued with teachers when she felt unseen, a boy who shut down when he felt dumb, two friends who had stopped speaking over something neither could even remember, and Ethan. He slipped in late, not making eye contact, and sat in the chair nearest the door. He didn't wear the old grin. He wore the look of someone who expected the roof might fall but decided to try the room anyway. Mr. Alvarez started with a simple exercise. "Write a sentence that begins with I need and doesn't blame anyone," he said. "Then we go around and read them. No fixing, no advice. Just listening." When it was Maya's turn, she said, "I need time to think before I answer when people ask me hard questions." A few heads nodded. The nodding felt like rain on dry soil. When it was Ethan's turn, he cleared his throat. His paper shook a little in his hand. I need to stop needing people to be afraid of me. No one laughed. No one smirked. Mr. Alvarez looked at him with simple, professional kindness and said, "Thanks for naming that." Then the circle moved on. After the session, as people zipped their bags and pushed in chairs, Ethan approached Maya. "Thanks for not, I don't know, looking through me," he said, words clumsy but true. "You showed up," she said. "That matters." "Can I ask you something?" he said. "If it's respectful," she replied. He almost smiled. "Fair. Did your dad ever, did he ever get tired of people expecting him to be someone he wasn't anymore?" "Yes," Maya said. "Every day for a while. Then he kept showing up as who he was becoming, not who he had been." After a time, the rooms changed. Ethan nodded slowly, like someone reading a map in a language he was just learning. "I'll try to keep showing up." "Do that," she said. "And apologize where you need to. Not to look good. To repair." He swallowed. "There's a list," he admitted. "I started it." They walked out of the building side by side. Not as friends, not as enemies. Just as two students, leaving the same door. The rain had stopped. The world looked washed and clear. In the days that followed, the list became real. Ethan pulled Liam aside outside science and said, "I was wrong to make you a punchline." He told Jenna by the library, "I made your life harder because I was trying to look big. I'm sorry." He checked his words. He kept his body angle open. He didn't ask for forgiveness like it was a prize. He offered it like a payment he owed. Some people shrugged him off. Some accepted with a surprise thanks. A few cried quietly, the way relief can surprise a person when they didn't know they had been holding their breath for months. None of it was dramatic. Drama had been Ethan's old fuel. Repair was quiet work. Maya watched without inserting herself. This was his work to do. Her work was to keep her own line straight, to study, to read, to be kind without being a doormat, to ask for help when she needed it, to honor the self she had been building since she was small. One afternoon, as she and Sophia walked home, they passed a muralist on a ladder painting new stars into the hair of the child on the wall. A little kid below watched with wide eyes. "Why so many stars?" the kid asked. The artist smiled down. "Because some people need more light to find their way." Maya felt the truth of that sink warmly into her chest. Some people did need more light. Some needed a mirror. Some needed time. All needed chances. That evening, her father brewed tea and sat across from her with a look that meant he had been thinking. "Do you know what I'm proudest of?" he asked. She tilted her head. "My grades," she teased. He chuckled. "Those, yes. But truly, I am proud that you never used my shadow to cover yourself or to scare others. You learned to make your own shade, your own shelter, your own sun." She let the words land. They felt like a blanket warmed in a dryer. "I'm proud of you too," she said. "For changing, for showing me it's possible." He lifted his cup in a small toast. "Then we keep going." They drank their tea in a quiet that was not empty. It was full of the work both of them had done to make their home a place of peace, full of the work they would keep doing to make their lives honest. The next morning brought clear skies and cool air. At the entrance of the school, a freshman fumbled a stack of papers and they sailed like white fish in a stream. Maya bent to catch the nearest pages. At the same time, a second set of hands reached for the others. "Ethan." They gathered the papers and handed them back. The freshman mumbled thanks, eyes wide with gratitude. As the kid hurried inside, Ethan glanced at Maya. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The moment was clean, simple, enough. Maya went through the door with steady steps. The day ahead was ordinary in the best possible way, full of small choices. She knew that's how lives turn. Not by one grand gesture, but by thousands of quiet ones that lean in the direction you want to go. She would keep leaning. She hoped Ethan would too. And somewhere in the city, people still told stories about her father. Some were true, most were not. None of them changed the fact that in a small apartment with a sturdy wooden table, a man brewed tea and answered emails and looked at his daughter like the future had forgiven him a little. None of them changed the fact that in a school hallway, a girl walked her line so clearly that other people found theirs by watching. The world did not clap. It did not put up banners. It did not play music. It did something better. It held. The wind was sharp the following week, tugging at jackets and rattling the old windows of the school building. Autumn had arrived in full, and with it came a kind of restless energy in the halls. Students carried pumpkins carved on their notebooks, teachers spoke of midterm projects, and the scent of spiced muffins drifted from the cafeteria. To most kids, it was just another week in the rhythm of school life, but to Maya, the air carried a deeper shift. The storm that had brewed around her name, her father's shadow, and Ethan's fall from pride had begun to change its course. She didn't need to hear the whispers to know it. She could feel it in the way people stepped aside for her, not out of fear but out of quiet respect. She could see it in Ethan's eyes whenever he passed her in the hallway. No longer sharp, no longer darting, just steady, as if he were practicing, a lesson he hadn't fully mastered but wanted to. In English class, the teacher asked everyone to write an essay on legacy. Not about famous people, she explained, pacing in front of the blackboard. Write about someone you actually know, someone whose presence has changed you. Remember, legacy doesn't mean rich or powerful. It means the mark someone leaves in your life. Students bent their heads, pens scratching. Maya sat still for a moment, thinking. Legacy. The word carried weight in her family. Her father's name had been a legacy long before she was born. People still whispered about Marcus, the man who once held entire neighborhoods in the palm of his hand. But his legacy, to her, wasn't the fear. It was the way he made soup when she was sick. The way he sat at the kitchen table long after dinner, listening carefully to her stories. The way he taught her to keep her line steady no matter who tried to bend it. She began her essay with a simple sentence. My father taught me that real strength is quiet, not loud. Across the room, Ethan hesitated before writing. His pen tapped nervously against the desk. Finally, he wrote one word at the top of his paper. Change. It startled even him. He had never thought of it as a legacy before. But in the past weeks, he had felt it pressing against him, reshaping him like water against rock. He thought of his grandfather, a man who had worked as a bus driver for 40 years and never once called in sick. He thought of Maya, who had stared him down without raising her voice. He thought of his own shame, heavy but oddly freeing because it showed him there was more to want than laughter at someone else's expense. By the end of class, both essays sat folded on the teacher's desk, seeds planted in silence. At lunch, Sophia leaned across the table toward Maya. So, are you going to join the debate team? Mr. Alvarez is asking again. Maya shook her head, smiling. I don't like arguing for points. I like conversations that lead somewhere real. Still, Sophia said, tilting her head, people listen when you talk, even when you don't say much. That's rare. I'd rather show them with actions, Maya replied. Her friend studied her a moment, then sighed dramatically. You know, you could at least pretend to be normal sometimes. I am normal, Maya said, laughing. I just don't need to prove it. A few tables away, Ethan sat with two classmates. He wasn't holding court like he used to. Instead, he was listening while one boy explained how hard it was balancing schoolwork with taking care of his younger siblings. Ethan didn't crack a joke. He didn't roll his eyes. He just nodded and said, That sounds tough. The boy's expression softened in relief. It was a small thing, but for someone used to being mocked, being heard felt like sunlight breaking through a cloud. Maya noticed the exchange. She didn't smile, but inside she recognized it for what it was. A table turning, slowly, almost invisibly. That evening, Maya walked into the apartment to the sound of jazz humming from the kitchen. Her father was at the stove, stirring a pot of chili. He wore an old sweatshirt, sleeves pushed up, the kind of look that made him seem more like any dad than the man people once feared. "How was school?" he asked, tasting with a wooden spoon. "Quiet," she said, slipping off her shoes. "Ethan's been different. Not perfect, but different." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "He listens now. To people. I think he's trying." Marcus set the spoon down and turned to her. "Trying matters. More than most people realize. You don't fix your life in a day. You fix it by showing up again and again even when no one claps for you." Maya leaned against the counter. "Do you think people can really change, like, all the way?" Her father's eyes softened. "I'm sitting here making chili, aren't I? 20 years ago, if someone had told me this would be my life, cooking for my daughter, paying bills, worrying about grades instead of grudges, I would have laughed in their face. But here I am. Change is possible, but it has to be wanted, more than the old habits." Maya nodded slowly. His answer felt like more than words, it felt like proof. 2 days later, the peer mediation group met again after school. The chairs were arranged in a circle, just like before. This time, more students had joined, curious, skeptical, or hopeful. Maya sat with her notebook on her lap, her pen ready. Ethan slipped into the chair across from her, looking less nervous than last time. Mr. Alvarez asked them to share one recent choice they were proud of. A girl with dyed blue hair said, "I didn't yell at my little brother when he borrowed my headphones. I just told him why I was mad. He gave them back." A boy with freckles said, "I helped my neighbor carry groceries instead of pretending I didn't see her." When it was Ethan's turn, he cleared his throat. "I apologized to someone I used to bother, and I didn't make it about me. I just said I was sorry." The circle was quiet for a moment. Then Mr. Alvarez nodded. "That's repair. Repair. Build stronger walls than fear ever could." Maya wrote that sentence in her notebook. Repair builds stronger walls than fear ever could. She thought about her father's life, how many walls he had broken, how many he had rebuilt since. The words felt like a thread connecting generations. Later that week, the school held a community night where students showcased projects, art, and performances. Parents filled the gym, chatting, carrying trays of food for the potluck. Maya presented a short essay she had written about kindness as a quiet power. She read in her steady voice, clear but not dramatic, and when she finished, the room gave polite applause. As she stepped down from the stage, she spotted her father in the crowd. He wasn't clapping louder than anyone else. He was just smiling, his eyes proud, his hands steady. For her, that was enough. Ethan, sitting in the audience with his mother, listened closely. When she nudged him and whispered, "That was beautiful," he nodded, not with the old mockery, but with real agreement. For the first time in his life, he felt something stir in him when he saw someone praised for kindness instead of cruelty. It wasn't jealousy, it was longing. The next day, Ethan stopped Maya near the water fountain. "I heard your essay," he said. His voice was awkward, but there was no sneer. "It was good. You're right about kindness. It sticks." "Thank you," she said. He hesitated, then added, "I'm trying to figure out what sticks for me, what I want people to remember when they say my name. I don't want it to be fear." "Then keep practicing," Maya said. "Legacy isn't built in one day. It's built in small choices." He gave a small nod, then walked away. That night, Maya sat with her father at the kitchen table, both of them with mugs of tea. She told him about Ethan's words. Marcus listened carefully, then said, "Maybe the boy has finally met himself. Most people go years before they do." Maya thought about that long after she went to bed, meeting yourself. She realized that was what she had done too when Ethan pushed her in the hallway. She had met herself in that moment, her calm, her line, her truth. And she had chosen not to bend. By the end of the month, the school felt transformed. Not completely. Kids still argued, still laughed too loud, still made mistakes. But there was less fear in the halls, less cruelty. The shift was quiet, but real. Maya kept walking her line. Ethan kept trying to walk his. And somewhere in between, a whole school found itself breathing easier. And though no one said it out loud, everyone knew the truth. One girl's calm had changed the weather.